So last week we talked about marketing and things to do, and a lot of people really levitated towards the op city stuff. A lot of people were getting onto some of the things that were going on. And whenever you basically buy those leads, you're buying buyers. That's what you're getting. Very seldomly do you end up with somebody who's like, hey, I just really don't know who to use to sell my house. People tend to do that. They're people that we capture on Zillow that are looking for a house. Now, if you're lucky, you'll find somebody who's looking for a house that needs to sell one as well. And you get both sides of that transaction if you do a good enough job selling that. And but this again is not really about how to sell that. I need to do a good one on just straight up how to sell yourself. And some of that stuff for next week's going to come into it because we're going to get some more tools on how you can sell yourself. So this is mostly like once you get a buyer. So Joey was just telling me that she's got her aunt coming to town. What do you do? Like, we've got a buyer. What are the steps along the road? And I've got some good takeaways for you guys as well. But this is going to be just kind of a general overview. Again, with these trainings, I'm not going to go very deep. I'm going to do those on individual videos that are going to be in the libraries. If you need more explanation on any particular form or anything like that, that will be in those individual videos. But this is just more of a general process overview today. So everything from start to finish on how to be a buyer's agent. I'm working with a buyer right now. We just got a house under contract, so it's actually pretty fresh with me. So, excuse me. I promise I've been to the doctor. The Rona didn't have me yet. It's just, it's the ragweed. It's killing me.
I just had allergy problems.
Man, and then the ragweed and mold are the two that just get me, and those two have been through the roof for like 2 weeks now. It's starting to settle on my chest. So, here we go. First thing you need to do when you get a buyer referral is get in front of them. You need to get in front of them face to face, old school, knee to knee, whatever you can do. I know in today's climate, that's kind of a weird thing. If you got to do it with a face mask, do it with a face mask. It doesn't matter. But the most important thing is to meet them. So one of the first stats I have on here is this is the lowest number I found. I actually found a lot that were a lot higher. It says 66% of people that work with the first realtor they meet. So if you're generating leads from something like Zillow or OpCity or your general marketing, if you've got ads that are going out, if somebody calls you on the phone, that does not constitute a meeting. You need to say, hey, let's go get coffee. Let's go do something. Sit down with them, knee to knee. I have a little story that I shared with a lot of people. With my last job, I was one of the top salespeople in a nationwide company. We had like 400 people across the nation, and I was always in about the top 10 by the time I finished my career. And one time we had this panel discussion where I was up on stage in front of 400 of my colleagues, and they asked me, they said, Colin, what's your, and then random questions about sales, they asked me what my closing ratio was. And I said, oh, it's got to be somewhere in the high 90s. And the entire room, 400 people started laughing at me because they thought I was crazy. But I had to quantify it. So I had to back the entire thing up, back the interview up and say, hey, I need you to understand though, what I'm talking about as a closing is when I'm actually able to sell somebody. So if I'm walking down or talking to somebody on the phone, no, I'm not 90% of that. I'm 90% of people that I sit down with. And I was very, very, very clear that my butt and their butt needs to be in a chair. Because something about that makes it feel like a meeting. It makes it feel so much more official, and we can kind of get some things done there. So it's so important to meet them, guys. No matter how technology driven we like to be, there's still something about human interaction. So the first step is meet them, guys. And this is a great way to get a lot of things out of the way. So there's a lot of paperwork you need to have in real estate. We're a litigious industry. So you need to get some of these things out of the way. And the first two things are the IABS, which is the information about brokerage services, and the representation agreement. So the IABS, guys, needs to be at the first substantive conversation. That's why I'm saying don't spend a lot of time talking about real estate on the phone. Spend a lot of time talking about where you're going to meet. Then you can go with them and get the IABS out. It's kind of a weird thing to start with, but I start every single meeting with that IABS. And I'll do some role playing later on exactly what I say and how I say it. And you don't have to use that. But essentially what I'm telling everybody is like, hey, look, I'm a licensed realtor. I play by the rules. I am required by law to give you this piece of paper. Can you please initial one for you and one for me so we both have a copy of that? And I actually walk them through the IABS if they feel a little uncomfortable about it. But it lets them know, hey, we're here to talk business. This is not, yes, you want to be friendly. Yes, you want to have a good time, but we're going to do this. And I follow it closely with a representation agreement. Hey, I'd love to work with you. This document right here says, I serve you. And without you signing this, I don't serve you. So, and y'all know about the fiduciary responsibilities, the agency relationships, all of that stuff that you went through on your classes. That is going to be in that representation agreement. And if you work through it correctly, it's a great selling tool. Like, hey, I'm here to serve you. This piece of paper right here, if you sign this, means I can't tell anybody your nonsense. Do you want to work with me? Basically, I'm cutting it really short. So meet them, get that initial paperwork out of the way. Next thing you got to talk about, guys, it's all the stuff you see on HGTV, right? You got to find out what they want. How many bedrooms are you looking for? Bathrooms, areas, etc. Because without that, guys, you are going to spend a lot of time spinning your wheels if you don't know what they're looking for. And it's going to start off very, very, very broad, and it's slowly going to start narrowing in once you show them some houses. Maybe they don't know if they want a one-story or two-story until they've seen a few of both. And then they say, you know what, I really want a one-story. And that's going to help you narrow down, because we are a service industry. We need to serve our clients, especially on the buying side. We got to find them what they're looking for. Now, it's also very important that they realize that I can't think of a single time I've ever had it happen or ever heard of it that somebody checks every single solitary thing off their list. The perfect house really doesn't exist unless you build one, and even if you build one, it's still never going to be quite right. So, but kind of narrow it down so it's a good thing to talk about while you're there. So get the paperwork out of the way, and then get their hopes and dreams going so you know what's going on. Second step. Excuse me. Second step, guys, get them pre-qualified. Okay? I have spoken to so many agents throughout the years that have shown 700 houses to this one pain in the butt client, and they never qualify for a loan, and then they move into another apartment later. This needs to be step 2. Meet them, get the paperwork, and get them pre-qualified. Do not show them any houses until they are pre-qualified, because they're going to want to see $500,000, $7 million house, whatever, and they're only qualified to buy a $200,000 house. You need to be able to set those parameters very quickly and very realistically. So how do you get them pre-qualified? You need to get them with an RMLO, okay, a residential mortgage loan originator. Use whoever you want. I love Robin. Robin has served me and my clients incredibly well. If you need her information, you get it. Guys, go to real estate meetups, go meet some RMLOs. But I will also say this, I never suggest one RMLO either, okay? You don't want to be responsible for that. Always suggest 3 no matter what you do. I do have 2 other RMLOs that I have worked with, but I always tell everybody, I like Robin, here's 3 additional ones. And if you go look it up online, guys, there is a bajillion RMLOs. So find one that works for you. Now, some important things to realize about RMLOs, or to shop for. You want to make sure that they are very responsive to both you and your client. The financing side of a buying transaction is the most tedious part of it. It's just agony, especially with the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, all of the legislations that's come out since 2008. There's been so many changes, and it's really hard, not hard to get qualified, but it's just tedious. And so you want somebody that's a very good communicator with you and your client. So that's number 1. Number 2 is you need to realize that RMLOs are commission-based salespeople just like us. They should, the service that they provide, they can't give you kickbacks. They cannot do that. They can't buy you tickets to a ball game. They can't do any of that, so don't even try. But what they need to do it on service. And they don't make any money until they close loans. So make sure you find somebody that knows how to get a loan closed, especially, like I said, in today's climate, there's a lot of changes that go on. So find an RMLO, get them hooked up with an RMLO. A couple of other things that go along with getting them pre-qualified that I think are important, that I say to my clients every time. Number 1, I let them know they are about to get a financial rectal exam, okay? They need to be aware of that. They are going to dig through every single solitary dollar they spent. They want tax returns. They want checking account statements, savings account statements, IRA statements, 401k statements. Basically anything that has to do with money in these people's lives, they need to know. Yes, they're going to pull their credit. Don't let them be scared of that. Their credit gets hit for like 6 points and it goes away in a month. It's not the end of the world, okay? During that time period, when that first soft credit pulls, they have 30 days to pull their credit as many times. So if they want to shop RMLOs, they can. It doesn't affect them anymore because they realize they're shopping for rates. So make sure you let your buyers know what to expect. Okay, that's the first thing. They're going to be nosy. They're going to feel a little bit violated. For some reason, everybody never wants to talk about money, and it's just a taboo topic. But during this process, you have to do it. Now, with that being said, I also let them know I don't know what they talk about, okay? They are completely separate. I work with the RMLO, but their credit report, their tax returns, all of that stuff stays with the RMLO. And my caveat, I do know a lot about lending. My wife used to be an RMLO. I've done a lot of deals. I get it, but I play very, very dumb because I don't want to answer any questions about money. If they ask me anything about money, I tell them, don't ask me, call Robin, call your RMLO, okay? Well, what if don't ask me, call them. Well, what are the percentage rates? Call them. Like anything that has to do with the financing of this thing, I have them call the RMLO. I just play as dumb as I possibly can because I need that ball to stay on that court while I focus on finding them the house. So make sure they know what to expect. The next thing about getting them qualified is and by the way, guys, it's okay to break up with your client. And I have broken up with a few clients because of the way they responded to the RMLO. Basically, my point is they're going to go online, they're going to fill out an application. The RMLO is going to follow up the application asking for documents. If my client does not respond to the RMLO, that is the #1 indicator that they're not going to get a loan because you have to be responsive. If the RMLO starts calling me, going, hey man, I asked them for their tax returns like a week ago. Hey man, it's like, I call them a couple of times and I'm like, if you do not, you've got to do that. I'm not showing you houses. We're not going to do this until you follow all of those rules because otherwise we can't go forward. And it takes a long time to get qualified for a loan. Bare minimum is about 30 days. So let them know what to expect and let them know they need to be responsive. I have broken up with a few clients again because they didn't do that. So next, set them up for an MLS search, okay? I shot a video about this a while back. Please go back and reference that. This is important. An MLS search is going to save you and them a lot of headache. And as you start to dial in, once you save that search, you can go back in and change things. The MLS search, I always tell them, you're going to get emails from me. They're going to be new houses that fit your description. You can do it by location, type. Watch the video and you can see what's going on here. And I let them know because so many people just want to go on realtor.com or zillow.com and look for houses. If you've been in this business any length of time, two things from that are going to bite you in the butt. When they use their Zillow estimate, that's an algorithm, guys. It's going to mess things up and you're going to have a lot of heartache. Number two is those listings. Sometimes they populate very quickly. Sometimes they're very slow. I can't tell you how many times, well, I found this one on Realtor. It's under option right now, or that one's actually closed already. Just look at the emails that I send you. This is the most recent data from the multiple listing service according to your request. So get them off all those sites because another thing is they're just going to be inundated with people trying to communicate with them and you want to keep the bad guys away. So get on an MLS search and then they actually have a portal through almost every MLS. There's a portal and they'll check which ones they like and you can see what they check. And you can start to notice what they're looking for and help them dial it in. Guys, this is the hard work on your part, is helping them understand what they want. So pay attention to what's going on. Next thing is, go shopping. This is the fun, can be tedious, can be a little frustrating part of representing a buyer, is going out and looking at houses. My recommendation is set aside a day for them. Try not to get in the habit, do it however you want. I mean, me personally, I don't want to take you to go look at a house on Monday and another house on Tuesday and another house on Wednesday. Why don't we just get together on Wednesday afternoon and go look at 7 houses, right? So we're all together. Because they'll forget what they like from one day to the next. It's usually a little bit better. And my advice when it comes to showing people houses is remember you are not going to live there, okay? You're there to help support them, to help them through the process, to help them understand what to expect. You are not there to tell them whether or not you like that kitchen. That's not, that's not for you to say. And they will ask you that all the time. Do you like this one? This one's, I really like, do you like this one, Colin? I'm not gonna live here. I have a very different taste in the houses that I'm looking for. My wife hates my taste in houses because I'm always looking for equity. I want to buy the ugliest house in the nicest neighborhood. That's what I want. And I'll fix it up. And like most people, like it takes way longer than I tell her it's going to take. So she's always mad at me because of that. But some people want a move-in ready house. You know, like I don't want to have to fix anything. That is completely different than my personality. So I simply tell them, hey, it's not up for me to like, and I say it a lot to the same clients. I say it over and over again. I'm not going to live here. You need to like it. You need to love it, right? So we go through that, but remind them there's no such thing as a perfect house, right? But I also do tell them, I'm like, hey, look, I'm here to also, because I do some investing too. Like I point things out, like, hey guys, whenever we get here, we might really want to make sure that we check the foundation. If you feel something off with that, that doesn't come necessarily within a traditional inspection report. So, hey, look, I noticed some cracks over here. Remind me, we need to make sure we do this. And that is part of your due diligence to make sure you're looking for any problems with the house, but don't scare them. Sometimes a crack in the wall can just be the tape popping, which is a $7 fix, or it could be the foundation shifting, which could be a $70,000 fix. You know, so just make sure that you let them know the difference and stuff, but don't express your opinion. It's just a dangerous place, because if they buy the house because you said you liked it and there's 900 problems with it, guess whose fault it is now? Yours. And you're going to get into all this legal BS because she talked me into it and I was so scared. Just keep your opinion to yourself. Okay, next. Once they find one, it's time for the contract, guys. So this is where your work really kind of kicks in, and your expertise and all the stuff that you've learned in your classes really become an important part. Most of the time, you're going to fill out the wonderful residential contract, guys. And a very important thing, if you're representing the buyer, most of the time, what you're going to need when you send in the contract, you're going to need a pre-qualified or pre-approval letter, which you should get from the RMLO. You're going to need that contract. And to make your offer seem as serious and legit as possible, you're going to want to sign the contract. I am willing to offer you X amount for this house under these terms. And you send the signed contract to the seller with a pre-approval letter and any other supporting documents, which we'll get to that in a minute. But you're going to want to sign it first. That just shows intent. Don't call the realtor and go, hey, do you think they'd take 260? Because that contract's 15 pages for a reason, guys. There's all kinds of variables other than just that number. Don't do that. You can call the realtor and say, hey, are there any offers on the property? You can do that. This is it. You can pay full price, you can pay under. Guys, negotiating is a whole other topic, but you're going to send in a signed contract and probably the pre-approval letter, okay? Remember, the last person to sign the contract will be the one who executes it. I want to say it's page 8 of the contract, page 9, I can't remember right now. There's a long black box that says this contract was executed. So if you send in an offer and your client has signed, and they accept that offer with no changes, they will sign the contract and execute it whatever day that client signs it. It may or may not be the same day your client signed it. Does that make sense? So maybe I sent the offer in on Monday, they didn't accept it till Wednesday. Wednesday is the executed date. And the last person to sign, that broker, should execute the contract, okay? Now, the reason why I'm making a mess about this is because maybe they liked most of your offer but decided to counter. And they say, hey, we're going to sign this contract with these changes, and you have to present it to your buyers. If that's the case, and you're the last person to sign it, you need to execute it. That execution date's very, very, very important, guys. Excuse me. It starts the whole clockwork with everything that goes on. So make sure you pay attention to that execution date. If the other people have signed it and said they've accepted it, you need to say, send me a copy of the executed contract so you know that date. Because, as you can see on the next line here, guys, you have 3 days to get your option and earnest money in. If you've asked for an option period, remember the option money goes to the seller of the house, whatever name is on the seller line. The earnest money goes to the title company. You got 3 days, and that is legally binding. If you don't do this, they can back out. 90% of realtors are a little bit forgiving with that, but don't play the game, guys. You've got 3 days. So as soon as that contract is executed, you need to be in front of your clients the next day going, give me money. With that being said, also, make sure when you're talking to them about filling out a contract that you explain to them, if they accept this, I'm going to need 2 checks. One for the earnest money and one for the option fee. You need to be ready to write that check. Okay, if their money's in some other account and they need to transfer it, have them do it then, because 3 days goes pretty quick. Any other documents that go in, guys, you're going to want to send that with the contract if you possibly can. The third-party financing addendum is the big one, and you're going to need to talk to the RMLO about that. Did they qualify for an FHA? Did they qualify for a VA? Are they doing conventional? What kind of interest rates are we looking at? All of those things you should talk to the RMLO, and that's why I said it's so important that you have a communicative RMLO, because if they don't answer your phone calls and you're ready to submit an offer and you don't know what we're doing, you can't fill that out. And the third-party financing addendum is a very important out on the contract. It's something very important that people need to be able to back out if they don't qualify or the house doesn't appraise or whatever it is. Plus any other stuff, guys, HOA addendums, lead-based paint, non-realty. Also check the MLS, because a lot of times the seller's disclosures will be in there. Those need to be signed. You can knock a lot of stuff out if you're paying attention. You can knock it out at the front end and keep your life a lot easier. So once you sign a contract, let's say we sign one today, August 5th. The next day is day one. August 6th would be day one. That's the first day of all this stuff. So you have an option period. Most people do a 10-day option period. You have got more work to do. Don't go celebrate just yet. We're not across the finish line. You have a contract. During the option period, guys, the most important thing during that period is to get an inspection. Once again, I have inspectors that I like to use. I know them. I know how they do their reports. I know what they look for. But you cannot tell them you need to use this inspector because I like him. It's the buyer's choice. You can pick any inspector you want. Most of them don't know an inspector. Some of them have a cousin that's an inspector that they trust. Great, use him. But you want to get on that like day one, because it's usually going to take them 2 or 3 days to get to the house, maybe a day or two to complete the report. Then you get the report back and you need to review it. Okay. One of the things that I always do is I always let everybody know what an inspection report is going to look like. And basically an inspection report is going to be terrifying. Inspectors are licensed as well. They're licensed by TREC. And they don't want to get sued either because they're licensed. They're susceptible to that. They have E&O insurance. They have all the same stuff we do. But they are going to basically say that everything is wrong with that house. Okay? Don't let your buyer go with them with an inspector. You're going to scare them. Because if there's anything that even smells wrong with that house, they're going to mark it as deficient, and they're going to recommend that you go get a professional in whatever field that is. So if one of the plugs doesn't work in the house, they're going to say, electrical is deficient, you need to go hire an electrician to do a full electrical inspection. That's terrifying. It could be one plug. Guys, that happened in my house. The house I live in right now, I didn't realize it was one of like the hotel switches. You know, you turn a light on at the door and it actually kicks that switch on. He didn't know that either. So there was actually nothing wrong with the electric. He just wrote it down as deficient. And he does it because he wants to say, I did my job. I told you to look out for this. Don't come back and look at it. So inspection reports are going to be kind of scary. And because of that, don't let your buyers go with an inspector. Don't. If they want to go, don't let them go the whole time. Just say, hey, inspector, call me when you're about 10 minutes from being done. Let's talk about what you found. And you need to be there as well to translate. I'm not telling you to sell around things wrong with the inspection. Don't do that. If there's something wrong with the house, you need to take it seriously. But at the same time, realize that these inspection reports are going to seem a little bit scary. Another perfect example is I had an inspection report come back, and they didn't use rink shank nails to put in the attic door. There's a specific kind of nail or screw or something that's supposed to hold that up. I got over there and looked at it. It was beyond adequate. It wasn't the exact right kind of screw, but it was like a bigger screw. And it's like, oh, is that really something to be scared about? I don't know, maybe. Is it a legit thing? Yes. Don't ever say it's not legit. But I've had them written up where it's like, oh, there's no protective casing on the attic light bulb. You know, they have to have a wire cage on it. I mean, is that a reason not to buy a house? I don't know. Maybe. Depends on it. Let your customer decide. But just warn them what's coming. And then at this point, guys, once you have the inspection report, it is now time to renegotiate the contract. Okay? You have 10 days during that option period to back out for any reason. Okay? And sometimes the inspection's the reason. They come back and they said, hey, guess what? We found Jimmy Hoffa in the attic. I don't want to buy this house anymore, right? Fine. Sometimes they come back and they say, hey, look, this window's broken and this, and that. You can now renegotiate. The way you do this is with an amendment to the contract. You can renegotiate the price. You can say, hey, look, we were going to pay $250. There's this many things wrong. We're now going to pay $240. Okay. You can ask them to fix those items. Hey, look, we'll still pay you the same price, but we need you to send an electrician in there to go fix whatever, whatever it is. I wrote on here, in for a penny, in for a pound. It's a saying my wife says, and I don't know if I fully understand it, but I kind of do. If somebody's in for a penny, they're in for a dollar. It's kind of like a gambling aspect. So don't be afraid to ask for something. If they've already signed the contract, they're already kind of thinking about spending that money. So if you're going to go in there, don't be afraid to ask for something. So I'm in an option period right now for a contract, and we lowballed them a little bit, like by $8,000 on their asking price. And when the realtor called me, she goes, and you know what? We didn't want to accept anything lower than this number, so don't be asking us for anything during this option period. Okay? She's trying to basically tell me we're not fixing anything, so don't come at me. Okay. But I'm not going to be afraid of her to do that. You need to take it all with a grain of salt, because you also don't want to lose the house because you asked for too much. But you can renegotiate at this point, use the inspection report to do that. And then once you're out of the option period, now it's a race to the finish line. And the race to the finish line is always going to be money, guys. This is money, 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 money. Money is the number one killer of deals at this stage. You need to talk to the RMLO company, or RMLO. Make sure they've ordered the appraisal. Appraisals right now are 2 to 3 weeks out. So don't wait till the last minute. Make sure your client knows to live like a miser. This is a huge one. They cannot spend any money, guys, because they get the financial exam at the beginning, they get it halfway through, and a couple days before closing, they're going to do it again. They're going to check their debt to income ratio, their credit score, they're going to check all this stuff. So if your people are getting excited that they're buying a new house and they go out and they put a whole bunch of new appliances on their Sears card, they just screwed up their debt to income ratio, and I've had people lose houses over that. You do not buy anything until the closing docs are signed. Don't go out to eat. I mean, discourage them from going out to eat. I mean, nothing, because you need to stay as financially strong as you were at the beginning. Pay attention to your finance drop dead date. On your third-party financing addendum, there's also dates that are in there. It's beyond the scope of this, but if you say, hey, we've got 20 days to figure something out, you need to make sure you're paying attention to that date and make sure that your RMLO is aware of that date as well. A survey. If you're financing the home, the finance company wants a survey. There's already a survey on the house. Check to see if a T47 will work. You need to know what that is. There's more videos on that. 3 days before closing, you have to have, by federal law, closing disclosures delivered to your people. It is essentially, it should be the exact same thing when they go to close, but it outlines every single dollar that is going through this entire transaction. How much they're paying in escrow fees, how much they pay for their survey. You should get that 3 days before closing. That's going to come from the title company and the RMLO. They both should be able to get a copy of it quick. But this is a great time to sit down with your client and review this with them, because you don't want any surprises at the closing table. Sit down with them, review the closing disclosures. If they're comfortable with them, take those same closing disclosures with you to closing, and those numbers should match up perfectly. If something doesn't, then you got questions, you may have to push back closing. Once you get the closing disclosures, that's when I set up a closing time. Call the title company, said, hey, look, we're due to close in 3 days. You can set it up sooner if you want, and just say, hey, we're going to be there at noon or 1 o'clock or whatever time works. And pick a home warranty company too, guys. You're going to want to do this a little bit sooner. It's the residential service contract portion in the contract. If they are going to have $600 in a residential service contract, you need to pick your home warranty company before you get to closing. It's not something you wait till the last minute. The title company is going to need to know that. So once again, you can recommend companies. All right. I don't recommend a home warranty company. I let them do the research on this. The reason why I don't do that is because some home warranties can give kickbacks. They can give you $50, $100 if you send them a client. There's additional disclosures that you need to fill out if you do that. But to me, I don't want to be on the hook for 50 bucks. Like, oh, we're going to give you 50 bucks. If y'all are a terrible home warranty company, I don't want my client yelling at me about this. Home warranty companies, for the most part, they're helpful, they're necessary. I tell everybody to ask for one. They're slow to respond. Every time anybody needs to use a home warranty company, the client's just pissed. There's just no other way. My dishwasher broke and it took a month and a half to get it fixed. I mean, it's just what happens. It doesn't matter what home warranty company you use. They're all going to tell you they're the best. So just let them do the research. Let that fall on them, because a home warranty company is going to upset them sooner or later, unless they never use it, right? So you got to do that before we get to closing. The day before closing or the day of closing, you need to do a final walkthrough. There is a form for that, guys. There's a form for that. You need to have that with your file that you turn in. You have to do a final walkthrough. Why? You want to make sure, like, let's say, like the house I'm doing right now, there's a non-realty addendum item. They want to keep the refrigerator with the transaction. They want the refrigerator conveyed. So, but if closing's at 1 o'clock, at 11, I'm going to go walk through that house and make sure that refrigerator's still in there. Okay, they do that, or they'll take that refrigerator out and put another refrigerator in. We're not buying the house. You want to make sure somebody didn't go in there and vandalize it, didn't burn to the ground, you know, whatever it is. Go through the house, walk through the house one more time so the client feels secure. Yes, we have looked at it. It is good. We're happy. Once they do that, there's a form. Have them sign it. Put it with your packet. All right. This should be as close to closing as you feel comfortable. Don't try and, they're closing at 1, don't try and do it at noon. I mean, back it up a little bit, give yourself some time. But you're going to want to walk through that. And then closing day. Then you get to go sit down at a title company. I love going with my clients to this, mainly because I'm their support, I'm their expert. If something comes up during closing, guys, 99.9% of the time, the escrow officer explains everything beautifully. But if there is a question, they feel so much better that you're there because they know you. They don't know the escrow agent, okay? They don't know them. So be there for them. Answer the questions if they have any, okay? I tell them you're going to need about 1 to 2 hours to close, especially if they're financing something. It takes a little while. And if they have questions, it could take longer. So closing day, it's a fun time. I usually am all smiles and bring my closing gift if you want to do that. Something along those lines to celebrate. And then take photos, guys. This is a great idea for marketing. You've seen these photos everywhere. A lot of times people use whatever's at the title company. Sometimes they have a house or a key and they take a picture like we're new homeowners, right? That is fantastic because everybody knows how exciting that moment is. And it's a beautiful thing for marketing. Get in there with them, take it without them. Here at White Line, guys, we call White Line as the finish line, if y'all don't know that already. You know, I made these big, long satin banners. I mean, they've got to be 8 feet long. And they say White Line Realty through it. And I have all my people, you know, hand it up and act like they're running through a finish line at a race, you know, and they're like, because it's tedious, it's stressful. They're freaking out, especially if it's their first time and they don't know what to expect. And it's like, we finally did it. So if you have the keys, you can give them the keys, take a photo of that as well. Please remember, most of the time, you don't necessarily get the keys until closing and funding. Closing is signing all the paperwork. Funding is when everybody gets their money. Funding can take an hour after closing. It could take a full 24 hours. I've had that happen before. Most of the time, everybody wants everything signed. They know it's going to happen. But again, be patient. If somebody doesn't have the bank yet and they don't want to give it to you, then be patient. You may have to still communicate with that other realtor when you're going to get the keys. So that's it, guys, when it comes to all of that. That's kind of the general overview process, but I wanted to share with you all as well. I need to get this uploaded for you so you can all have this. This is a form that I use with every single one of my buyers. This is my buyer checklist. And it has every possible document that I could possibly think of when going through a buying transaction. So property address, seller's name, seller's agents, buyer's name, buyer agent, that should be you. Listing forms GF number. These are the numbers that the escrow officers use to identify the file. Okay, so you can ask for a GF or an EO number. I'm going to walk through these real quick. There's separate videos for, I think, almost all of these at this point. Intermediary relation. if you're representing if White Line is representing the buyer and the seller, you need to have an intermediary form, and you need to talk to Eric, Ryan, or myself about it. Here's the form number. Escrow contract GF number, we're going to write that in here. Third party financing addendum, that's almost every house. Non-realty items addendum. Guys, if they want to, the cool thing about real estate, what I love is that everything is negotiable. If you want the car in the driveway, you can do that as part of the house. I mean, everything is negotiable. So I like to do that. Like I said, the refrigerator is one of them, window coverings, stuff like that. Lead-based paint addendum. If it's an older house, you got to have that. Addendum for the contingency of sale of another personal property. That's a big one, guys, and I need to do a video about this one. Some people want to put an offer on a house before their house sells. So that would be a contingent offer, and there's a form that has to go with that saying, hey, look, I will buy yours as long as mine sells. Usually what people do is once it gets under contract, then they'll do that, saying, hey, as long as we can cross the finish line, we're good to go. Any amendments? These are the renegotiations. You'll use an amendment to renegotiate price, to renegotiate the option period, to push back the closing date. Was the appraisal ordered? Termination of contract. Did you have to cancel a contract? If you do, there's a form. You need to keep a copy of it. If they do terminate the contract and all parties are agreeable, you can have a release of earnest money. That does happen a lot. The buyer's walkthrough, we talked about that. Home warranty options. Seller's disclosures, guys, they have to sign the seller's disclosures every time. Did you do that? Amenities list, that comes a lot with HOAs or sometimes just the house. What all comes with it, I like to make sure my clients are aware. Notice of info from other sources. This is like if we use, maybe we didn't use the county appraisal district to do the square footage, or we had somebody tell us something. If there was a professional that came in and changed some sort of the documentation on this, you need to have that noticing. Total listing printout. I just print the one out from the MLS just so I have a copy of it. This is important, guys, because on the MLS, it shows what the buyer's agent commission is. When they put 3%, 2%, $250, $10 million, when they put that in the MLS, it is a binding contract. If there's a bonus, that's why I print it out. I print it out on the day we sign the contract because I don't want them going in there and changing in the MLS and going, oh, I was just thinking about the bonus. No. This was printed on the day we signed the contract. You owe me a bonus. Texas Department of Insurance, WPI, windstorm cert kit. This is mostly for coastal things, guys. But if there's any insurance documents that need to come with it, flood certs, all that. Tax appraisal printout. I keep a copy of that just for my records. Tax information, the IABS, we talked about that. The buyer's rep agreement, pre-qual letter that comes from the RMLO, requesting it for mortgage information. That is going to happen in kind of the contingent offers. If they need to sell something, all those forms, you can go look at the forms. They'll make more sense with you. HOA addendums, if they're mandatory, you've got to have that addendum with them. HOA documents. So if you buy a house in an HOA, you have to fill out the HOA addendum saying we know it's in an HOA and we know it's going to cost us this much. They tend to have a fee, like an annual fee. Sometimes it's monthly, sometimes it's semi-annual, whatever. But there's also a fee to transfer the property. So to take it out of my name and put it in your name, we're going to charge you $150. And then what are the HOA docs? Like, what are the rules of the HOA? You cannot have, flowers taller than 5 feet in your yard. They have all these covenants and restrictions that you need to have a copy of, and your clients need to read through it and make sure they're cool with it. Because some of them, like, you cannot paint your house any color other than brown. If they want a purple house, they can't live there, right? The inspector report, any other inspections, permission for hydrostatic testing. If you have a feeling that there's something wrong with the foundation or something wrong with the plumbing, you can perform something called a hydrostatic test. A hydrostatic test puts a lot of pressure on the plumbing, and it could damage the plumbing. So you need to get permission from the sellers to do a hydrostatic test. If your client wants a hydrostatic test, you need to make sure it's okay with the sellers, because if you pop something doing that, you don't want to be responsible. Septic system. If you're buying a house that's mostly out in the country, guys, on-site sewer is another way to phrase that. There needs to be a form for that. If there is a septic, you want to get that inspected. Septic systems can cause a lot of problems. Does your buyer not want an inspection? Buyer waiver of inspection, guys, you need to get that. If that's mostly investors. If I buy a house as an investment, I don't need an inspector. I know it's probably something wrong with it. I'll figure it out. Survey in T47, that outlines the lot, where the house sits on the lot. And T47 is an affidavit saying, I promise I have not changed anything since the last survey, and here's a copy of that last survey as well. Property inspection reports, we talked about that. General info, notice to the buyer. That's a standard form, just saying, just go look it up. It's just pretty generic information. Information about property insurance for buyer and seller. Guys, they need to get property insurance, and that's something they're going to have to shop for. They need to do it before they buy their house, because that house needs to be insured on day one. It's a great little form to let them know that. Let them shop for insurance. Once again, I don't really recommend anybody on that. Hazards and deficiencies, TAR form 2504. Again, if there was radon on the property, if somebody was cooking meth on the property, all those kind of things will go in there, and that's usually disclosed on there. If there is a hazard or deficiency, you need to fill out that form. Wire fraud warning. I like this one. It's a PDF form you can get. When you go to closing, they have to take a certain amount of money. Everybody kind of does. You can wire that money to the title company, or you can take a certified check. It depends on the amount, number one. If they're taking $100,000 or $200,000 or some really large number, they're probably going to want to wire it so they're not walking around with that. If it's $12,000, get a certified check. Wire fraud is a big thing, and it's been happening a lot lately. So tell your clients never to answer an email. They said, oh, your closing's coming up. Wire your money to this wire number. Hackers are getting good. They'll start paying attention to your emails. They'll know you got a closing coming up, and they'll send in some false email, and then you wired $25,000 to some account. You'll never see it again. So if they're going to wire money, make sure they call the title company and speak to somebody on the phone, get the number like that, or they actually go by the title company and get a printout from the title company with wiring instructions. Don't believe anything in an email. Addendum for coastal area properties. Guys, if you're down the coast, there's more paperwork. The Seaward Intercoastal Waterway, same thing. Port A mud form. Sorry, it's not Port A, just any mud. I had one that was down Port A. Managed utility districts. Instead of just the normal ones, those are different forms. Flood hazard area. If you live near a river, guys, you need to get flood insurance. You need to make sure you talk to them about it. Notice to buyers, natural disasters. Any emails, guys, that are going through, keep those. Commission disbursements, those are sent from White Line. You need to keep a copy of that. Your closing disclosures, which comes from the title company, and your title commitment. Keep a copy of the title commitment too. Make sure you read. I need to do a video about title commitments. Most people get them and never read them. They're very important to read to find out if there's any problems with buying the property. But that's for another video. So, ta-da! Start to finish. That's a lot of information. I feel like I've been talking a long time. Has anybody got any questions? Joey, what's up? Wait. You're muted. Hold on. Wait.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
go for it.
I had a couple questions. One, with your MLS search that you do you just use Sabre or whoever it is, just their MLS search, or do you use like Chime? You can do searches and stuff like that. Do you have a particular one you use?
Once I've met with a client, I tend to do it in the particular MLS.
Okay.
So once I've met with them, I do them in Sabre, mainly because I'm not quite that familiar with Chime yet, if I'm going to be completely honest.
I'm not either. I'm having Tiffany tutor me on it.
Yeah, and I study it. I've watched the videos, but I also know that Chime is an IDX, which means it's pulling information from the MLS and it's going into our website. I don't know how frequently it pulls it. I don't know if there's a plugin error. 101 things could go wrong where they're going to miss a property. I know everybody uses the MLS. I know the minute something's posted, it's going to email that to my client. No huff, no fuss. I use Chime mostly just for the CRM.
Okay. I had the other question is, I've noticed in a lot of the listings I've looked up on the MLS, when it comes to the commission split, a lot of times it says 0 in the seller, and then it says 3 in the buyer. Is that just a common thing?
Well,
And it's been in a lot of
so it kind of depends. So what you might be looking at is either new home builds, number one. So if it is a brand new build, they kind of fall under some different laws and different rules. So the selling person that may have just MLS access may or may not be a realtor, and they may be getting paid a flat rate from a company, and that's going to be a separate agreement. It's not going to be in all the finishing stuff on there. That's where I see that most.
Okay.
It could also be like, hey, I'm selling my mom's house. I don't need any money, but you're paying 3%. You know, maybe you're being nice about it. And sometimes make sure you're paying very close attention too, because there's a difference between the buyer's agent and a sub-agent commission. So make sure you're looking at that as well. But most of the time, you're probably looking at new builds. Am I right on that one? Especially
a lot of them are right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are new builds.
Living up in Spring Branch, there's a lot of new builds up there right now.
Yeah.
And whoever's building Jimmy Jacob or whatever, you know, we pay our guys a flat rate.
Okay.
So, and it's usually outside the transaction.
And then the form that you were just talking about, I didn't have it on my screen. I know that there was a form in one of your YouTube. I think you had it as an attachment. Is that the same one that you were just going through?
Maybe.
I don't
know,
so.
But I'll definitely get y'all a PDF version of this.
So? Okay.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think that was
checklist. I have a seller's checklist. Pilots use checklists, guys. I mean, astronauts use checklists, right? I mean, you got to make sure.
I love checklists, so that's why I'm asking.
Me too. I need checklist. I need to make sure it's all in here. Now, guys, but I do want to say this. Because it's on this checklist does not mean you necessarily need it. This is just all the stuff you might need. So, for example, termination of contract. If the contract completes, you don't need to terminate it, right? So it makes me remember. Like, if something goes wrong in a transaction, guys, and God forbid, you never have to deal with it, you want to make sure you've got all your ducks in a row. And this just reminds me. And this, guys, all of the necessary forms that are on this that apply to your transaction need to be uploaded before you get your commission disbursement. So you need to have all of this done probably 3 or 4 days before closing, except for the final walkthrough. So, but yeah, I can definitely get y'all a copy of that.
Thank you.
Wait,
Colin, real quick. So the buyer representation agreement. So like right now, I already have 3 buyers that are working with my RMLO to get pre-qualified. And I've been sending them properties that they're kind of looking for until they're qualified. At what point do I like send them the buyer's agreement? Like, hey, can you go ahead and sign this? Or like, how do I know when not to be too pushy? Because I know sometimes buyers are just browsing and they really don't want to sign anything.
So yeah, great question. And so I just realized I was not sharing this screen. Are y'all seeing this now? Is this what
now
we're
seeing
about?
It, yeah.
Yeah, my bad. Push the button at the bottom. So, Aaron, great question. And it is a fine line to walk with something. Yeah, if they just want to go see a house, I'm not going to let them get. I'm not a door opener. Okay, that's not who I want to be. That's not who I'm gonna be. And if you become a door opener, you're going to get taken advantage of as a door opener, right? Can you come by and open this door for me? You know, for my friends that want to go, fine, whatever, I don't care. You know, somebody I really know. If somebody that's like, hey, I'm going to go look for a house, I need to meet with you first. Now, if, let's say they're like, hey, they called you because they want to see this house, right? That's how you got the lead. Let's say it's an op city lead, right? They always come in and they're like, hey, look, so-and-so wants to see this house, right? Great. I'll meet them at that house. And we're going to, like, they got to see the IABS right then and there, right? Because that is now a substantive conversation. So that is your opener. That's how I break the ice. Hey, guys, I hate to do legal stuff right now. This is what we're doing. I need to do a sales one on this. It's kind of beyond the scope of this video, but I'm going to push for it. So I'm going to find out. There's certain qualifying questions. How serious are you about buying a house? Have you gotten pre-approved? You know, whatever. If they just want to look at it because their grandma lives next door and they want to see what did it, you're spinning your wheels, guys. You're wasting gas. So
that's what I don't want to do.
What's that?
That's what I don't want to do is spin my wheels, and that's why I'm trying to figure out that boundary. You know what I'm saying?
At that first conversation, I'm going to push it. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You don't have to be pushy, but I am going to say things. Hey, I'd love to work with you guys. I'm glad we were able to get in this house. Before I can show any more houses, I need to know that we're working together. And this form right here says that I now work for you. Are we good on doing this? Right? And as you walk through the form, there's a timeline. Hey, look, are y'all looking to buy in the next 6 months? Because if you don't want to use me, it says right here on this page that if you don't want to use me, you can fire me. That's cool. You know what I mean? When you walk through the whole thing, it does kind of help them understand. Hey, look, let's work together for 6 months. If I can't find you a house in 6 months, you can fire me. It says so right here. You want to fire me sooner? It says so right here. It's all in that form. But yeah, I'm going to push for it. I absolutely am going to push for it because I don't want them every time they want to see a house, click in the Zillow ad or click into this or click into that because you're going to lose them. So, hey, you know what? Let's talk about what you want. And then I tend to, I honestly, I kind of scare them a little bit about Zillow and all that stuff saying, hey, look, that stuff's usually a couple days behind. And, it's a hot market. And you need to be on top of this. Let's talk about what you want. You want me to set you up on a search? Oh, that'd be great. The minute anything hits, you're going to get it. Oh, that'd be great. Okay, but before I can set you up on a search, we need to work together. Press hard 4 copies. That's what I'm doing.
Gotcha. And then last question, the IABS, is there already like a pre-populated form and I just got to print it with my information, or do I have to print the blank form and fill it all out?
Yeah, okay. So what I've done, let's see if I can do this now. Hold on. When I do this, are y'all just looking at me now?
No, we see the form right now, but
Oh, so y'all were just looking at the last slide of the whole time? Sorry. Okay.
the buyer's checklist is what we're looking at now.
Okay, so now I see what I did. Just screw up. Okay, hold on.
And I just updated, I got the information about broker services, and then I just went and populated my information in there. And
yeah, so
based off
that's what I
see.
do. And I don't know what y'all can see.
And then I added
right
it,
here,
a link to my signature.
The top right corner of my computer, I keep an IABS. So, bingo, that's there. And because I print out hundreds of these things, I print them out and I take them with me on showing appointments. I probably have 50 of them in my car right now. And I just made one nice and pretty, and so we're good to go.
Can you send me that one, Colin, and then that way I can just change the bottom one?
Yeah.
Or like who would, you said that in San Antonio you would be the licensed supervisor, or would it still be Eric?
Yeah, you can fill it out exactly like that. You can put me as your licensed supervisor, however you want to do it. I'd leave it just like that. If you're not on the team, if you're working by yourself, Aaron, just leave it like that, because that just means you're reporting back to Eric. If you need help, I'm here for you. But
Gotcha.
Aaron, what do you know?
Yeah. House. CP House Buyers. LLC. At Gmail.
Yeah, there's a copy of mine, dude.
Okay. Yeah, and then I can just fill it out.
Yeah, but you can find them, guys. You can find them on zip forms. You can just Google information about brokerage services. It'll pull up a blank form, make it pretty, and then I just save that PDF, because if I ever need a document on it or whatever, I know where it's at. What? Any other questions?
I know you have to get out of here, Colin, so I'll shoot you.
No.
I have another question, but it's
go for it. I've actually, somebody's going to be here at 12:15, so I got a little bit of time.
It'll be real quick. So I know on your Facebook business page you have the IA, just to go back to the information about business broker services. Did you upload that as a photo? Because I'm trying to add mine, and I'm like, I'm trying to add it as, it won't let me add as a PDF at this point.
So found it. I just went PDF to JPEG.
Okay.
Here's a file converter free. I mean, there's 100 of them.
Yeah.
I may have done that. I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
I can't honestly remember. But if I did have to do it, that's what I did.
Okay, thanks.
And then just remember when you're on there, it's to me, it's such a silly rule, but I mean, it is what it is, right? So on my realtor page, just remember to, come on. But you can pin it. And I pinned that to the top. which, I mean, I don't know. First thing, that's the only way I know how to make it a first thing. And I don't know why it's taking so long, but.
I wish they
Yeah.
had a spot where you could add something like that instead of like a menu for restaurants that you could put it in.
Yeah. So, but there's this little button
Yeah.
called pin post. So I just pin that at the top.
Okay.
So,
I do have one more question if you had time.
yeah, what's up?
It was just, I know if a buyer wants to look at properties, you send it to them through MLS, but what if a buyer's like, hey, Aaron, I don't want to look at properties, I want a new build. Like, where do I get like new build information? Do I just got to call up different builders, or how does that work?
So, so we need to do a field trip. New build people love realtors, and they do all kinds of fun stuff for them. I went on one, I want to say last year, I can't remember. I don't even remember how it happened, but like an RMLO and a title company and something, and they sent me an email and they go, hey, we're going on a bus to Magnolia, the thing in Waco, the Chip and Joanna Gaines thing, right? And my wife saw it, or I think maybe she got it. I don't know. Somehow something happened. And they're like, you want to go? And she's like, I want to go to Magnolia. Okay, let's go to Magnolia. And we got on there, and it was a trick. It was a dirty writing trick. What they did is they got us on there, and they took us to these new home build communities, and they made all this group full of realtors walk through, look at this house, and ooh, look at this. And they did that to us for about an hour or two. And then they drove us up to Waco, and it was a great time once we got doing all that. Those guys are everywhere. As you can tell, my doorbell just rang, and by the sound, it's time to go. So, but yes, they're looking for you. If you want to find out what area of town they're looking in, go drive around, go knock on the door and say, hey, I'm a realtor that's got a client. Can you show me some stuff that we've got? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there you go. And my dog, I have a very large dog. He's my alarm system. So if you got any other questions, guys, give me back. I'm going to download this. We'll put it online so we can go back and refer to it. But I'm here for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.